If you're searching for an archer, look no further. Even among all these heroes, I'm still the best with a bow and arrow. Meet your end.
Atone at once!
Meet your end. Meet your end. Embrace death.
I'll test my strength.
Embrace death. Embrace death. Embrace death. I never miss. I never miss. Embrace death. Meet your end.
After 3 long years, I finally made my first ever 5-star exclusive plus 10 unit. For the longest time now, this is something that's always seemed like a whale fantasy to me. However, between not foddering a single copy of Close Counter over the span of 3 years, free copies of the Pineapple that FEH has just given us, and the additional copy we just got from the FEH Pass, I had the boy at plus 4. However, the recent weekly revival banner that just ended, I was able to free summon 2 of him. So that put me at plus 6. So I said, screw it, let's go all the way with this. 300 orbs later, I had a plus 10 Takumi, and here we are. Now, I am fully aware that Takumi is not the most ideal unit to build in 2020, but thanks to his flashy new Resplendent alt and the amazing artwork that it brought, on top of being able to get 15 Dragon Flowers, which is another plus 3 to all of his stats, I felt that I could make him relatively competitive even with all the power creep that's so rampant in the game. The build you saw at the beginning is what I primarily use him in modes like Arena Assault and AR, which I consider the hardest content in this game. And yes, I do consider Arena Assault significantly harder than actual Arena. Helmbow is exactly what Takumi needs for a reliable way to buff his own speed and making sure that the opponent doesn't bridge the speed gap via field buffs. These skills don't work on joint drive skills or other invisible buffs for that matter, so you have to be mindful of that. However, Lowell's speed and def gives a guaranteed -3 to their speed and defense stat that they can't do anything about, so that can kind of help with those invisible buffs that you can't take away. Helmbow stacked with Lowell's speed and def makes a whopping -8 speed debuff. Combine that with the fact that they can't buff their speed whatsoever, and Takumi's 44 speed becomes an effective 52. Swift Sparrow 3 pushes that even further to 59 attack, and with the plus 6 speed that his C-slot provides, that makes his speed 65. All of a sudden, that 44 speed ain't looking too bad. However, if Olin has taught us anything, the Queen of 0 times 2, if you don't have the firepower to back that speed, you can have 1,000,000 speed, you still ain't getting the kill. That's why I specifically chose Lowell's speed and def to once again help with his middling speed stat, but also def so that you can't def stack to invalidate his attack stat, with specifically armor units in mind. Swift Sparrow 3 pushes his attack to 56, and Attack Death Solo pushes it even further to 62. The Oath C skill pushes it again to 68 attack, and much like Chrom, that's 2 shots that you have to take from a 68 attack unit, inflicting -8 defense on you while removing your ability to stack your defense against them. And there are not a lot of heroes in this game that can take 2 shots from a 68 attack unit. There are some units that can take those 2 shots, but once you factor in Glimmer, then that's enough damage to push them over the edge, because they survive, but they don't survive by a lot. So that extra bump that Glimmer gives it pushes them over the edge. I can't wait to get my hands on Deadeye, because then I can start doing some real damage. Now you may be thinking that ults and solo skills seem a bit counterproductive, since one relies on being alone while the other relies on being near allies. This is true, but I think that ranged units can somewhat get away with a combo. Ranged units prefer to stick with the team or attack from behind a tanky unit. However, there are a lot of times, specifically in modes like AR, where you don't have the luxury of just turtling around and you have to move very fast to push ahead so you don't run out of turns. So let's say you see a Chrom on the enemy team and you want to get rid of that Chrom before Chrom starts doing Chrom things. So in that instance, Takumi pushes ahead, nukes Chrom before Chrom starts using his to change fate BS, and his allies reposition him back behind them, ready to rinse and repeat. It's not the perfect synergy. There have been some times where it gets a little wonky, where I try to get the Oath skills and I'm still too close to my teammates so the solos don't go off. However, I found it to be significantly more effective than giving him a Rouse skill and forcing him to stay alone. Putting your ranged units by themselves is typically not a good idea unless your name is Alphonse. I've been playing around with for AR defense utilizes the infamous Fujin Yumi Refine. While yes, it is a downgrade from the build I just finished talking about, I still think it'd be kind of fun to mess around with and see if it can catch someone off guard who just see Takumi and write him off. On top of not being able to buff your own speed and defense against Takumi, now you also can't debuff his attacker speed, so absolutely nothing can stop his terror. While the bow doesn't give him the same offensive push that the Helm Bow provides him that he so desperately needs, at the end of the day you're still getting plus 12 attack and speed, which puts his offensive spread to a very respectable 64 attack and 54 speed. While going for Takumi, I did get a Pity Breaker, Valenti, and Catria, so it kind of got my mind wondering on this topic. Will I commit to arguably the worst Refine in FEH? I mean, I am a hardcore Takumi fanboy, but I'm still not sure if I want to refine that heavily in the Fujin Yumi Refine of all things. We'll just have to wait and see. Overall, I just wanted to make this video to showcase my first ever 5-star exclusive plus 10 unit after playing this game for 3 years since day one. And I also just wanted to show you guys that I know I make a lot of meta choices when it comes to investing in my units, but don't be afraid to build your own units that you love and you cherish. There are plenty of powerful skills in FEH, plenty of weapons and specials that can turn even the worst units in the games without River Refines into arena viable units. And if you're willing to go the distance with them, then they will yield you results. Next step is getting Takumi to plus 15 Dragon Flowers. Takumi may not be the S-tier archer he was back in 2017, but he'll always be a S-tier hero in my heart. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. This has been Salos, signing out. Until next time, deuces.